Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Thoughts on Thursday, where we meet every Thursday to think and talk about our thinking. And today is October 30th. Tomorrow is Halloween, where traditionally the the veil between worlds becomes thin and the spirits can cross between them freely. And that was the origin of the Celtic holiday Samhain, which becomes our modern Halloween and is now um, profiting candy companies all over the world. So there we are. And I was thinking a lot about this lately. It's one of my favorite holidays because I always, when I was a kid, loved to dress up. And, usually I was a witch or a gypsy or something, whatever I could grab from my mother's scarves and jewelry or, whatever. Um, but it historically it's a time when um there's a certain fear because so many people historically did not make it through the winter with the cold and the no crops. So they were thinking a lot about mortality. And I think probably most of us here don't worry too much about mortality because we know we're immortal. But there are probably things that in the moment scare us. And I thought about it, sharing anything from our past or things we've seen that in that moment give us fear and what we've done about it, if anything.
Well, the only thing I can think of, and that's just popped into my head because I read what the topic was before, and I thought, I can't think of anything. But, well, but it's really, you're going to laugh because nothing I could do about it. But I was at somebody's house and I smoked some pot. And, you know, I think sometimes any kind of uh, it's not a hallucinogenic, but my mind opened up and whatever it was um, that I experienced, this about myself, it was something about myself, totally freaked me out. And it really scared me because I think it wasn't a good thing, something that I realized about myself or something. And I never could remember after that what it was. So that's my tale. Very interesting. I think about that sometimes. What was it? Who am I? What did I do? What did I think? So
Interesting. I'd like to share.
it's Cecile. Yeah. Oh,
Okay. Okay. Um, when I moved to LA, I came in intending to be an actress. And so I was doing all kinds of things and involved with theater groups and all kinds of classes and things of that sort. And so the first theater group I was involved with, West Coast Ensemble, was in Hollywood. And it had a building that used to be a mortuary. And so we had lots of experiences in that building. It was just riddled with pranks and things that were happening with the lights and the sounds and the noises and the walls. And it's like, yes, it was an older building, but it was supposedly the mortuary where Marilyn Monroe was involved. So there was lots of acting history in this building to begin with. So, um, so as a member of the theater, you're taught to do all aspects. You've got to do you're on stage, but you're also the light director, the sound director, you have to work in production to learn all aspects of it. So it's really fun. And I just remember this one um, time I was running lights for one of the shows, and And I'm getting my cues from the stage director, and she's just telling me, this up, this down, da 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 da, in 4, 3, 2, 1. So I just pressed buttons on this board, and so she told me to do this one thing, and I pressed this one button that I know does what she asked. And as soon as I did that, all the lights in the entire building turned on. It was like, I don't know, I don't know what that was, but it was really interesting. But it was like, and it was a scene where it was supposed to be dark, and that the poor actors on stage were running around pretending it was dark, but it was like we could all see everybody in the whole place. It was really interesting. It was really kind of funny. But things like that happened frequently at this theater company. But what was very, very interesting for me was that I was with them when we had the big Northridge earthquake, which was a huge earthquake in the LA area. And this was an older building, so it sustained quite a bit of damage. So we had to go and repair it. And so one weekend day or whatever, a bunch of us, there was like 30, 40 of us, had gone in to help start repairs on the building. And so we're there, and then everybody decides to go to lunch. And I said, I'm going to stick around. I've got this one thing I'm working on. Just bring me back something. And so everybody's gone, and I have gone to the restroom, and there's nobody in the building. And I'm at this. I'm just after I'm washing my hands, and there's a wall on my left, and the doors to the right. And there's nobody in the room. It's just me. And all of a sudden I felt a hand on my hip, and it touched my hip, and it moved me over about a foot. It was like, excuse me? So I was in your way, apparently. So apparently that was really interesting. And I was like, all right, fine. I'm leaving. Bye. And so I just left, but it was like very interesting. But things like that, I mean, I have those stories, but everybody had stories from that building. It was really interesting. But yeah, there was lots of activity there. It was fun. Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's a strange pattern of haunted theaters, and not only haunted theaters, but the bathrooms in the theaters. I don't know what that is. I used to direct the play when I taught high school, and we did it at the old Mount Angel Abbey Theater. And the kids would not go into the bathroom. They would leave the theater and go over to the monastery and beg them to let them use the potty, which they did. But I was there, at least maybe it's the plumbing. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Water is very intuitive, and it helps.
Yeah.
It's an opening for spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have one story. That story always really scared me, and it almost scares me now. That my mother told me that during World War II, she and her sisters and their mother were together. Their husbands were all overseas. My grandma was there, and her sister Alice, and they got out a Ouija board, which is always scary. And they were asking questions, and my mom asked, how many children am I going to have? And it said 2. And she said, oh, gosh, just 2. And it said 6. Are you satisfied? And of course, she had 6 kids. And then she asked, how will my husband come home? Because she was thinking he was in the Philippines, and she thought either a ship or an airplane. What means is he coming home? And the board said in his pajamas, and he came home on a hospital ship because he had malaria. And then my Aunt Alice asked, is Howard all right? Her son Howard. And the board said he's already dead. And he died on the Bataan Death March. And my mom said she just picked that thing up and threw it in the fireplace. Scary, scary, scary.
And right on.
And right on. And not a kind voice either, really.
Because my girlfriend Jana and I, we would do the Ouija board on several occasions, and it was really interesting the way it worked and everything. And she got answers, I got answers. I don't remember anything specifically that stood out to me, but that's a crazy story. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we don't know who's running the other side of that thing. Could be anybody who
I'm
wanders
wondering though,
through.
did she do any kind of protection spell or anything before it?
No,
Yeah, my girlfriend always
I
did that.
don't. It just wasn't in the mindset like it is now. People who believe in metaphysical things, and yet she came from a family where my grandmother read cards and tea leaves, and she was partially raised by a Norwegian witch. So we always had this stuff in the ghost stories, but I never once heard about protection circles or bringing in the light until
Right.
I was much older.
I'm watching a show called The Discovery of Witches.
Oh,
With
that's a good one.
Did you see that?
Yeah, and I read the books. They're fun.
Did
Yeah.
you? Oh, I'm just loving it because I like fantasy and stuff, but it's all about witches and vampires and demons, but they're people. You never see the demon as what you think of as a demon, but it's very fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Barb.
Well, getting to your point about, we don't know what's going on the other side. I don't have a story of being frightened that I can think of, but I had a kind of an unusual situation the other day. And a while back, we had a show on just serendipities and interesting coincidences. So I met a friend of mine in downtown Portland the other day for tea, and we went to a really sweet little Japanese style restaurant. And for the first time I had ever heard of and then ordered brown rice tea.
Mm.
And it was actually quite lovely. It was really good. Um, and I also got this really cool little rice cake with some salmon in it. But anyway, so later I was at home and I was talking to my husband and sharing with him what, that I had met my friend and about the tea, brown rice tea. And he watches a lot of videos on people camping and especially doing extreme camping. Camping, he's into that. And he told me that just that morning before he went off to school, he was watching a video of this guy camping someplace really extreme, either northern Alaska or up in Siberia. I couldn't quite remember, but someplace very cold. And this camper guy started his day with brown rice tea. And Dean had never heard of it either before that morning. And it was just so funny that both of us on the same day came across that.
See, that's
So,
those that kind of what do you call it? Synchronicities happen in your life
right.
that are fun.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I find if I see a strange name that I've never heard before, like I'm reading a book or something and I'll come across an unusual name. And then next thing I know, within the next 2 or 3 days, I see that name, like a couple more times. It's like, whoa. It's like the energy around that name has kind of popped up into my sphere or something.
Yeah.
I'm really tempted to say boo.
Appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Fear is an interesting thing, and so is this concept of evil, which I really don't believe that exists either. It's a lens we look through sometimes, and we think we see evil when it's something else. Whether it's in metaphysical world or political or social, it's an illusion And yet we're in these bodies that have these neurological impulses, the fight and flight thing, when weird things happen to us. And we become afraid. And I guess I still, if I feel odd or a little bit scared, I still call on the light, even though the light's always there, I still do it.
That awareness and sometimes that forgetting.
Yeah.
We get so caught up in the day to day
Yeah.
that our
Well,
focus.
yeah, we're living in these bodies that tell us something else is the reality instead of what we know is the reality. So
Maybe if we found a different word for evil or change the perspective on what evil, what it could be rather than evil. So, because evil is such a tainted word,
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a lack of love.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Course in Miracles says, fear is the absence of love.
Yeah.
Um, and when we're not in a loving place, we can become afraid. Or when someone's intentions are not loving, it can trigger fear.
What about evil?
Um,
Another,
I think when we're afraid, we see something as evil.
Right.
mm,
And Chelsea writes like a distortion. And
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
It's like a
exactly.
mirage almost. It's not really there, but you think it's there.
Well, you think someone's evil, you go, he's distorted.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
And
Renee
the only
writes,
distortion, this distortion is that we just don't understand them. That's all. The distortion is we don't understand. How can that happen? How can that person think that way or be that way? But you don't know his backstory. You don't know how
yeah,
or why he made the choices he made. So that's the whole thing. We just don't understand it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Renee wrote evil in the other order spells live.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yes. You can also switch it around so it spells veil.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
the veil between worlds is thin. So
Anagram.
interesting.
Nice.
And yet I know it's not like that in other languages. So
Mhm.
they may have other words that play tricks on you like that.
Yeah.
Trickster words. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. With that, you could say like evil is living backwards. Or when you live
Yes.
backwards, it's evil.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a label. I think you
Yeah.
mentioned that last week, Cecilia, about they're just labels. And
Yes.
like you were saying, we don't know the backstory.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's in reading I said earlier, I'm reading Virginia Giuffre's book, and her childhood was so horrible. And the rest of her life was horrible. And you think about she came through it and was able to prosper. And she still, of course, had her demons, so to speak. But you look at people in politics or society or media that we don't like and we think they're evil. But if we could see their childhoods, I'm sure we would have a lot of windows on their behavior. Whenever I think of anyone, I just for some reason can't stand. I try to picture them as little children in their grown-up clothes and dragging their pearls or their long tie or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, being a devil's advocate, then I think, but then there are some people, you look at their background of childhood, they had a great childhood, but there's something that is already twisted in their
Yeah.
mind, you know? So there's that too. When you look back, they had they had this normal life and at some point they just,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is reincarnation. We don't know who people were and what they've been through before this timeline. They may come in with a lot of unresolved trauma that they act out here.
Yeah. And I think part of that is just the um act of being physical. When you're physical, it's like you always have to have something for comparison or contrast.
Yeah.
It's like the yin and yang, if we're going to be physical,
Mhm.
there's up and down, there's light and dark. And so that's kind of part of being, as Chelsea said last week, these pixelated beings,
Right.
that are mass.
Right.
So, I think that
Yeah.
there's no getting away from that, as
Yeah,
long as we're
and
here.
that's how our brain is set up. That's how we learn it as babies. This tastes good, this doesn't. This, that, red, black, hot, cold, don't touch that, it's hot, and you learn. I mean, by contrast.
Right.
I think the most important part of this discussion is that we have a choice and we can choose to be afraid, to be in fear, or to be curious and want to understand why. And you bring up the author that you're reading right now, but I also want to bring up again Viktor Frankl, Man's
Yes.
Search for Meaning. He lived a horrific time of life, and through the whole thing, he chose to find a nugget of nice and to
Right.
find a way to survive and to find a way to be kind to those who were persecuting him.
Yeah.
So, it's your choice. So you can be afraid or you can try to understand and live a different way in that same moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
looking at that a different way in the book that the My Stroke of Insight, she talks about the left brain, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, basically that you can make that somehow it's the way you communicate between the hemispheres, and you can make a choice to be compassionate or,
Yeah.
make that choice to,
Yeah.
to be a different kind of person, which she wanted to do when this whole thing happened, as it happened, that she came out a different person, It's
Right.
very interesting.
And you can also say, how else can I see this?
Right.
Is there another way to see this?
Mhm.
Good.
Right. And to me, it comes down to how do you feel? Do you feel crappy? And do you want to continue to feel crappy? Or
Mhm.
do you want to feel good?
Right.
And that's kind of the bottom line, admitting that, okay, I don't have to be a victim or I don't have to, think this way all the time. I can look at, even just for a moment, look at the sunshine and just revel in that, and just get that feeling of bliss.
Yeah.
And
Go
then
touch a
you build
tree.
on that.
Yeah. Else.
Uh, I think I think this is a really good discussion, and what I want to offer is it seems to me that some people who are on their journey and there's a lot of fear in their life, it's their way of feeling a little bit more alive
Mhm.
in a kind of wrong way direction, but it helps for some people it I think it helps them like go towards the feeling of being a little bit more alive
Mhm.
and like to offer like a different way to do that without fear. One thing I've kind of discovered lately, I've discovered that movement in certain ways is helping me feel more alive. Like I've been jumping on my rebounder trampoline every morning and really just paying attention, and I braid my hair down the back, but when I jump on the trampoline and I feel my braided hair go flop flop flop, it's like it makes me feel more alive.
Cute.
Like just that feeling, like it's like a movement thing.
Sweet.
Yeah, but I think it's similar in a different way for people who just like oh, here's my fear today, and here's my fear this afternoon, and here's my fear for the morning. It's just like they're grasping because there's something that makes you feel a little bit more alive and like of that what's that essence that's always here that we're not really feeling,
Yeah.
when we're not tapped into it.
Yes. But when we are tapped in, miracles happen. I'm just going to share one quick story just because I have been involved with lots of different things and metaphysical things, and angels was a huge focus for me for a long time, still now. But um, at the beginning, I just remember I was living on a street that was right basically on, I was on the upper floors, and the sidewalk um, was where my window faced. And I just heard this choir. It was gorgeous. It was like so beautiful. I was like, what is going on? And I went to the window to see, and it was one girl walking down the street singing, but she was a choir. It was like so full. It was like, oh my God. And I thought of the angels then. I was like going, he brought everybody. That was like, oh, so beautiful. But it was like, what's your focus? What do you want to see? And then it shows up. So, but it was amazing.
I've been playing around with, I've been hearing things that are not like actually, I've been hearing things as sound that aren't sound.
Hmm.
I don't, it's hard to explain, but, and I just want to share with Cecilia or anybody else that was on your you're playing in the frequency.
Yes.
When we were doing the plate clock, as John called it. Oh my God, that was so funny because when I was going from 6 o'clock to 7, I was hearing my bones grind. But they weren't grinding, but I was hearing them grind.
Right.
And I could make the sound by going from 6 to 7, back to 5, back to 6 to 7. I could make the sound, but the sound actually wasn't there, but I could hear it.
You're
And
opening
I don't even know if
doors.
grinding was the right word. It was just the only thing, the closest word I could come
Yeah.
up with. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was really weird. But
Well, I can add just about sound is we have Corinthian bells, and I don't know if any of you have ever heard Corinthian bells. They're chimes, but they're bells, and they hang outside our bedroom. And when I'm resting, or if I'm playing with the frequencies as I'm resting, or if I'm taking a nap, it is like a symphony. It is the most gorgeous sounds, and it just like expands. And I love them. Some people might be annoyed by them. They're too much, but they're just, it's like being in a church, kind of beautiful.
Nice.
Wow. Wow. Well, from dark to light, this is a great discussion. Thank you all so much. And let's live in the light.
Sounds good.
Great. We'll see you all next week.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.